so the soul can become smaller in the sense that it can become covered by the energy of ignorance. The Lord has also an energy of ignorance. Even though it comes from Krishna, it's an energy that covers your knowledge and makes your spiritual light more dim. So in that sense you become smaller. But the soul is always big or small. His size is described as 1/10,000th part of a tip of a hair. If you take the smallest tip of an end of a hair and divide it into 100 times and then another 100 times, then you get the size of the soul. And Prabhupada says, no, it's not a figurative speak. It is the size of the soul. It is there. The soul has a concrete size, but it's atomic. And so there was one of our scientists. He left his body a few years ago, but he made a calculation of how big the soul was according to that description. And he came to the conclusion that it was even smaller than an ångström, which is a very, very small atomic measurement. Ångström. It comes from a Swedish guy, I think, called Ångström. An ångström, they call it in English. And it's smaller than a hydrogen atom, which is the smallest atom. So it's atomic. But its light can be seen more or less according to its spiritual advancement. And it is said that the jiva can attain the qualities of the Lord up to a percentage of around 78%, but not more. He can like manifest the Lord's qualities when he's in connection with the Lord to a very high degree, because he's in direct connection with the Lord. Then the Lord's qualities becomes smitten on the soul. So he looks very powerful, but that's because he's in connection with the Lord. And as soon as that connection goes away, he again becomes very small. So it's like a fire, it's spark in the fire. When it's in the fire, it's very strong. When it falls out of the fire, it becomes almost dead.
The size doesn't change.
The size doesn't change, it's always atomic. But another thing is that when you become reinstated in your function, in your eternal function in relation to the Lord in the spiritual world, then the soul also has a concrete shape and form, not only as an atom but as an actual bodily form. But that bodily form is transcendental. So it's a shape and form which is not under material conditions, which is very difficult to understand at the present moment, but that's the case which is described in the Vedic literature, that the soul, when it is in material existence, it's atomic. Back in the spiritual existence, you may say it's still atomic, but it has this body of a servant of the Lord, a shape that suits the service you're doing to the Lord. It's substantial. It's not diffuse or just like a haze. It's very specific. Anything else? Yeah?
I read also Prabhupada said in the material world the soul generates a material body, and in the spiritual world the soul generates a spiritual body.
Yeah, that's true. That's very good description. Because in the material world, by your consciousness, a material body grows around you. By your very mentality, you can say. Your body is a result of your exact mentality in this particular period of time in your karmic situation. That body is the exact manifestation of that mentality. And so on and so forth. And when we become Krishna-ized, our Krishna conscious body is an exact manifestation of our service to Krishna. That is a very good description. Yes?
You said reading the Bhagavad Gita and chanting Hare Krishna is a way to purify yourself.
Yeah.
But reading can be very superficial if the mind is wandering all
I
the
know,
time.
I know exactly.
How to get that while reading?
Yeah, it took me like 30 years to get over that problem. So I don't know if there's a good trick. What I did, I had the service of doing the radio show, and I had exactly the same problem. Reading was very hard for me. So I started translating the books in order to, force myself to read them. So I made my parallel translations and read my own translations of the Bhagavad for the radio. And I've never been so deeply studying the Bhagavad. But In any way, if it's easier for you to listen, then you can find some readings and listen to. They exist in Danish on krishna/online.dk. They can only be downloaded, the whole Bhagavad and the whole Bhagavad Gita can be downloaded for listening purposes if reading is too difficult. Another way to do it is to just keep reading and read loud and force yourself to hear mechanically until the mind surrenders. Because at one point, by chanting, by reading, by taking prasad, at one point the mind will think, yes, this is actually quite nice. This is actually the nectar my mind wants, even though for the last, the mind wants to do something else because it's used to find its satisfaction in some sensual engagement. That is the habit of the mind since so many incarnations. But now, if we want to take this Krishna consciousness a little bit seriously, then the first thing is to surrender the listening process, and that is the hardest, as you have very nicely described. That is exactly the problem when the mind does not want to fix. So, just go on doing it, and it will come, but it requires a little patience. Find some things within, find some aspect of Shravan that is attractive to you, and we have to find some things that we like in Krishna consciousness, some little thing that we find that can attract us. Of course, within Krishna consciousness, not something that is not Krishna conscious, even though it is within the temple, so to speak, if you understand what I mean. But to continue these practices, like the falling snow that doesn't want to, it melts in the beginning, but if it keeps falling after a while, there's a layer of snow. So in the same way, if we actually have the patience to just go on, then at one point, the mind will surrender. Because the biggest problem with these books is that they are written by a pure devotee. And the pure devotees, they have no idea of sense gratification. There is no sensuality in what they write. It's not sensual, it's not romantic. For a sensual, materialistic person, this is very, very dry. Extremely dry, and can be very, very boring, and seem at least a little bit repetitive even. But that is because our mind is not trained to, this poetical rhythm of Prabhupada's. You have to get into it. It's a question of just surrendering to the vibration, and then it will say, oh, this is very nice, and then you become attached to it. But it requires a little bit of patience, and a little bit of perseverance. It's something that you just do lightheartedly. It's a little difficult. Yes?
Can you read too much?
If you can read too much. According to Prabhupada, not really. I was listening once to a lecture. I was at home cooking, and the radio, at 4 o'clock, it was Prabhupada Tuesday afternoon, and I was listening, and he said like this in one instance: yes, we have so many engagements. We have so many engagements. But if we were able, we could just read the Bhagavad all day and night. So if you can do that, please go on. And he also told one of his sannyasis, you are authorized to read my books 24 hours a day. That is the importance of the word of the pure devotee. That alone can save us. If we can do nothing else, reading these books can save you. Even if you can do nothing else. Or even if you can do nothing else than listening to the books, even that can save you. One process is enough. There are 9 processes of devotional service: Shravan, Kirtan. Those are the 2 most important. To hear and then to repeat what you have heard. This is very powerful. Yes?
Where does the ego come from?
The ego is an energy created by the Lord because you had the idea to want to dominate material nature. You wanted to manipulate this world, but in order to be a lord of this world, your identity has to change. So then you become supplied with a false ego. The false ego is the feeling that I am this body, I am this person in this body. It's called false ego, but it gets its energy from the soul, which is situated within the heart physically, and giving energy to the consciousness. The false ego is maybe more situated around the head maybe or something like that, and makes you feel. But it's an energy created by the super soul for you to identify with matter. So the false ego is also an external thing to you. But the feeling of I am at the present moment, meaning I am this person in this body, in this incarnation at the present moment, this is called false ego. Real ego means the feeling here inside the heart that I am a servant of Krishna, I love Krishna.
So ego can be a good thing.
Yeah, real ego is a good thing, and ego cannot be destroyed as such. Only the false identity can be destroyed, but not the real identity. It is always there.
Because maybe a person wants to get Krishna bevisted because of his ego.
Okay, then you can use your ego, but at the end that has to go. So you can be egotistically interested in Krishna, that's okay.
But do you think it's possible to get Krishna bevisted if you want it because of your ego?
No, but you can start with it. You can start in that way, but in the way you will understand, you will become purified, and your real ego will start to manifest. You start with the false ego, that's okay. But in the process you have to be prepared that your identity will change. Your feeling of identity will go deeper by the process itself. In the beginning, we only have the false ego to relate to, we have nothing else. So we have to start from there. I think we have to really stop now because it's time for the Arctic, so if there are any, I'm sorry if there are more questions, but there's going to be a question and answer session hosted by somebody else but me, but it's at 6 o'clock. Somewhere.
I think there is not, Madam Ashman there is not today.
Nothing today. Okay, this is the last chance to ask a question, but it's 4:30.
Today there's a photo session.
There's a photo session.
That's why we don't have questions.
Oh, photo session. Everybody put on a nice clothes, no?
Everyone is looking at it.
Okay. Okay. Last question.
It's not a question, I just wanted to say about the listening. If you want to be able to listen, your life habits have to be pure.
Yeah.
And then the mind can be pure.
Right.
And then you can do it. That's
Yeah.
the proper.
But that by listening you will hear all that. You know. When you listen you will hear that also. Yeah. But it's true. You have to live purely. That means the 4 regulative principles. Shishigori Tai Ki Jai. Thank you. Jag blir nødt til at gå, fordi jeg har en aftale. Jeg skal lige der. Så en anden må tage det. Ses.
Så.